Alright, guys. I'm just scrolling Twitter just to see if there are any updates. Interaction. Damn, max leader. Alright. Hey guys, so today will be. I'm live, right? Yep, I believe. Yep. Hey guys, so today we'll be revising object oriented programming in C primarily. So this is a small notes which I made for my preparation. Let's go through this. Hear me. Alright. How many questions are there? Let's check that. Oh, only 48 questions. Not bad. So question number one. What is meant by object oriented? What is meant by the term OOPS? OOPS stands for object oriented programming. It's a programming paradigm where we design and structure our code around objects. Each object represents a real world entity and contains both data, which we call attributes, and behavior, which we call methods. This approach makes the code modular, reusable, and easier to maintain compared to procedural programming. Right? We'll go through the answer twice so that just you and me can hit this particular answer in our head. So, OOPS is a programming paradigm where we design and structure our code around objects. Each object represents a real world entity which contains data, also known as attributes, and behavior, also known as methods. This approach makes the code more modular, reusable, and easier to maintain. Question number two. Why OOPS? The main reason OOPS is preferred is that it makes code more modular, readable, and maintainable, especially for large scale softwares. By using concepts like encapsulation, we can change the internal implementation without affecting how other parts of the system interact. This makes maintenance easier. OOPS also aligns closely with how we think about real world entities, so both developers and non technical users can understand the system design better. I'm sorry, but I just remembered another thing which I have to do. Done. Just a sec. Yeah. So, what is why object-oriented programming? Because it makes code modular, reusable, and maintainable, especially for large-scale softwares. Excuse me. By using concepts like encapsulation, we can change the internal implementation without affecting how other parts of the system interact with it. What? Oh crap. I'll be back, guys. Alright, guys, I'm back. Oh boy. Yep. Yeah, so we were at why object-oriented programming because it makes the code modular, reusable, and easier to maintain, especially for large-scale softwares. By using concepts like encapsulation, we can change the internal implementation without affecting how other parts of the system interact with it. This makes maintenance more easier. Mhm. Oops also lands closely about how we think about real-world entities, so both developers and non-technical users can understand the system design in short. In short, improves clarity, reusability, and scalability. What are some of the major object-oriented programming languages? First one, there are some of the most widely used OOPS languages include Java, C++, Python, C Hash, Ruby, and Swift. I wonder if they're going to ask third question at time, but yeah, regardless. Next question is, what are some other programming paradigms other than OOPS? So apart from OOPS, there are two broad categories of programming paradigms. First one is imperative. Second one is declarative. In imperative paradigm, it focuses on how to achieve the goal without uh, without no. It focuses on how to achieve a goal and includes style like procedural programming, structured programming. In declarative paradigm, it focuses on what the outcome should be without specifying control flow. This includes functional programming and database query languages. So, in short, if you have to remember, it should be like declarative declares what the outcome should be. Imperative tells us how to achieve that particular outcome. So it is imperative, declarative, how to achieve that particular outcome, what the outcome should be. Yeah. Next is what is meant by structured programming. So structured programming is a programming approach where the control flow of the program is organized into clear and logical blocks. These blocks usually may include constructs like if-else statements, loops such as while and for, and functions. The idea is to make code easier to read, debug, and maintain. Alright, so structured programming is basically an approach where the control flow is of the program is organized into clear and logical blocks. Those blocks can contain if-else statements or while and for loops and functions. The main idea is to make code easier to read, debug, and maintain. Sixth one, what is bit difference between structured programming and object-oriented programming? So structured programming is a procedural approach where the program is divided into functions and modules, and execution follows a top-down flow. So it's just like uh, how we write solutions to DSA questions, not on LeetCode but in general RVS code. So that is one of the examples you can see in structured programming. In object-oriented programming, on the other hand, is based on objects that combine both data and behavior. The key differences are structured program is top-down, OOPS follows a bottom-up, that is from object we go to the parent. Data security, OOP uses encapsulation to restrict data access. Structured programming has no such restriction. Reusability, OOPS achieves this through inheritance and polymorphism. Structured programming relies on functions and loops. Overall, OOPS object-oriented programming makes it easier to maintain and extend large complex systems compared to structured programming. What are the advantages and disadvantages of OOPS? The advantages of OOPS are code reusability. Code reusability through inheritance and polymorphism, easier maintenance and updates because objects encapsulate related data and behavior. Third one is better data security by controlling access using access modifiers. Fourth one is lower complexity for large systems by modeling them as real world entities. The couple of disadvantages for OOPS are it requires skill designing and object oriented thinking, which can have a learning curve. Second is proper planning is essential. Without it, the benefits can be lost. It's not always suitable for every type of problem, especially small and straightforward tasks. The program size can be larger compared to procedural approach. Why is OOPS popular? OOPS is popular because it makes easier to design, write, and maintain complex software. By organizing code around objects and using concepts like abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism, we can model real world scenarios and reuse our code efficiently and make updates with minimal impact on other parts of the system. The combination of clarity, scalability, and reusability is why OOPS is widely adopted across many programming languages and large scale projects. Full stop. This honeybee. I'll just be back in a sec. Oh boy, honey, if it tries to come back. Nah, close my window for this. Hopefully it doesn't come again. If it comes, I'm in real danger. Yeah, so why is OOPS popular? Because it makes the code easier to design, write, and maintain complex software. By organizing code around objects and using concepts like abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism, we can model real world scenarios more naturally, reuse code efficiently, and make updates with minimal impacts on other parts of the system. This combination of clarity, scalability, and reusability is why OOPS is widely adopted across various programming languages. What are the main features of OOPS? The main features of OOPS are, I'll just quickly share my VS Code as well. Mm, just a sec. Because at some point in OOPS we also have to write the code. So basically for that. Benefit placement string oops. Hmm. Yeah, so what are the main features of OOPS? The main features of OOPS are first one is inheritance. Inheritance is the process by which one class, child as a class, acquires the properties and behaviors of another class, can be parent or superclass. It promotes code reusability and establishes a parent-child relationship. Next one is encapsulation. It is the concept of wrapping data and methods that operate on the data into a single unit class while restricting direct access to the data. It is achieved using access modifiers like private, protected, and public. So encapsulation, what it does is it wraps all the data and variables into a single unit class while restricting the access of any method. Restricting direct access to that particular data, we can implement this using access modifiers like private, protected, and public. Next is abstraction. Abstraction is a process of hiding implementation details and showing only essential features of an object to the user. It is implemented using abstract classes in C++ or interfaces in Java. Do we have abstract classes in Java? I have to see. I'll just Google it. Do we have abstract class in Java? Java supports abstract class declared with the abstract keyword. Alright. It is implemented using abstract classes or interfaces in Java. Fine. So abstraction is hiding implementation details and showing only the essential features to the user. Whereas encapsulation is wrapping all the data and methods that operate on the data into a single class and unit, and we restrict the access to that particular data using access modifiers, private, protected, and public. Next one is, I'm sorry, I just remembered one more thing. I'll just note down in my mobile. Yeah. Next is polymorphism. So polymorphism is made up of two words. Poly means many and morph means forms. So polymorphism is a feature which allows us to perform the same operation in different ways depending upon the object or context. We have two types of polymorphism. First one is compile time polymorphism, also known as method overloading. The next one, method overloading, a static polymorphism, or a early binding. The second one is runtime polymorphism, which is also called dynamic polymorphism or method overriding or slash late binding. So in compile time polymorphism, what happens is I'll just share my VS Code as well so that we can practice together. Family workspace. Yep. And your capture should be on the top. Hmm. Yeah, so we have two types of polymorphism. Hmm. compile time polymorphism. This method is to be executed. This method to be the method is to be executed is decided at the compile time. It is achieved using method overloading and operator overloading. For example, you can see that we have two print statements, each having different parameters. I mean, there are different data type of argument passed, and we can simply print them. Even though they have same function name, but since we have different data types passed, so the compiler can differentiate during the compile time what is happening. So just quickly implement this in the VS Code itself. Like we are just writing short. We are not going to write the whole implement function and all. Compile time polymorphism morphism. So just include error whatever bits left. C++ dot h. Using namespace. Compile time polymorphism is suppose I have one print, it takes the parameter the index, and just do cout x. Similarly, if I have void print and it takes string s, you can cout s. This is my compile time polymorphism. Next here the print function is chosen at compile time. Right? Now we'll go to runtime polymorphism. The method is executed. The method to be executed is decided at the runtime based on the actual object type. It is achieved using method overriding and virtual functions in C++. So suppose we have a class base, it has a virtual function called show. Now since it has virtual function, we can say that it is an abstract class, true or false. Let me know in the comments. If we have any virtual function, does that class become an abstract class? I'm just doing ChatGPT so that I don't spill any wrong information out of my mouth. Okay, so abstract class happens when there is at least one pure virtual function. Since we don't have pure virtual function, we cannot say this is an abstract class. Okay, so virtual method we have a show. Now in the child class we have overridden that particular show. If a base star points to a derived object, the derived version runs at runtime. Alright. So you can see we have a class base, we have a void show function with a virtual declared initially. In the child class we have overridden using the override keyword. Now we'll simply see all example showing all four features of hooks so that you are clear of what is happening. Just to please share my VS Code. I'll comment this part down. All four pillars of hooks. Right now. Suppose I have a class as animal. Consider we have a class as animal. Inside this we have the name of the animal, that is string name. By default everything is private in a class. I hope you know that. Let us declare it as protected so that only the class hierarchy can use it. Now we can declare this as public. Now when an animal constructor is called, I will simply what I'm going to do is declare my name is equal to empty string. Semicolon. Now if I get a constructor with an animal of string s, I'll just equate my name to s. Now I'll do set name string s, and just do name is equal to s. Similarly, I can do this. I mean, I need not try particularly into new lines. While get name, I can simply do return, or I can do cout. I'll return name and I'll change this void to string. Right now, I have to show the abstraction as well. So let us say, since it's an animal, we can also have a function. Animal makes sound, right? So we can have a pure virtual function which is like make sound. Now, since it's a pure virtual function, what we are going to do is we are going to declare a virtual. Let us assume it's a void data type function equal to 0. This is a pure virtual function. Now my particular class has become an abstraction class. Now we have to show compile time polymorphism as well, right? And runtime. Runtime would be showed using this. Compile time, what we can do is we can simply write if animal is eating, then cout name is eating. And similarly, what I can do is I can have string s, then animal s is eating. Just for naming, I can write this is food. Food. Yep, I think this works well. Set name, get name. Now, suppose we have a child class. Let us say we have a dog class. It is inheriting from public, parent class, that is animal class. What we can do is, suppose we have public, we will define the constructor string s. What we can do is, you can simply say set name of s. Again, I can write this in one line. And now that this is compiled and this is pure abstract function, right? I just need to see. I'll just use Copilot. Do I have to implement all the pure virtual functions in C++ when inheriting a child class? Even if I have 1% dot, I'm just googling it so that I'm sure about it. Sorry guys, I think I got cold, but let's hope that's not the case. If you want a derived class to be considered, it must override and define all inherited pure virtual functions. Alright, so I have to override my make sound function. So this would be like void make sound and override. Do we write override with parentheses? No. Make sound is a function. What can we write here, guys? We can write something like cout. Yeah, name is accessible in chat, right? Name a doggy. Simple. Now we can have another class, that is a class cat, and we have public animal. Public. You can simply implement these methods. Control C. Control V. This is cat. Set name, void name, a kitty. Sounds good? Yep. Void main, yep. The semicolon is missing. Now we have int main. Suppose I instantiate my object with the help of parent class, so it's something like new dog, Tommy. Same goes with this. What should I say? I don't remember any cat names. Let us say Joe. New cat. I mean, not see. Object name should be different. Yeah. What happens if I write the same object name? What happens if I declare two different objects using same object name? I'll just provide an example as well. For example, I'm not sure what will happen, but let's see. In the meantime, we'll keep completing our code. So in this case, if I write a1 dot make sound, this will make sound. Then goes with a2 dot make sound. Right now we have to do this is basically method overloading, and now we have to see method overloading. So what we can do is a1 dot eat. Then goes a2 dot eat. There we can write fish. Now we also have to deallocate the space memory allocated to the object. Delete it and yeah, return 0. You can't redeclare the same variable, the same scope. This is a compile time error. Okay, cool, compile time error. Let's run this function. Oh, how man. I forgot to write semicolons everywhere. A2 dot make sound. Yep, this should work. Tom is a doggy, Joe is a kitty. Tom is eating, Joe is eating. Right. So let's go from the top. This is basically encapsulation because it's not directly accessible. I think it's double S. Now assigning inside constructor, assigning name inside constructor. What if I write something like my name is already empty and I undefine this? Will this still work? What do you think, guys? Ah, candidate expects one argument and zero provided. How come? Class animal, new dog. Let's see why is it not coming. Cat string as set name as fine. Why am I getting this error when I am removing the non-parameterized constructor? Assigning name inside constructor. This is encapsulation relation. Why? Because it accessing via method. Next, this is abstraction. You're getting that error because when a derived constructor doesn't specify the base constructor, which base constructor to call. C++ cars to what base default implement implicitly. So just now default to code with the model language. Derived constructor doesn't specify which base to call. I couldn't quite understand. This is compile time polymorphism. You removed the default constructor animal, so in doc class flat, the compiler tries to call animal and implicitly fails. Okay, when a derived constructor doesn't specify base constructor to call. So I think what happens is when I write class dog as public animal, and since I declared a parameterized constructor, it does not, the compiler does not implicitly create a non-parameterized constructor. So when animal is called, there is no such constructor which doesn't have any parameter to initialize. That's why it is giving error. So I think animal name equal to, yeah. What if I keep like this? It just wants the parameter, right? I will initialize my name like this. This is cool. I hope you understood what was the issue earlier. Right, so this is compile time or polymorphism, which is getting decided at the compile time. This is virtual and this is abstraction. Since we are making it abstract, I'll just try another dot. I cannot write animal equal to new animal, right? Since my animal class has now become an abstract class because of this pure virtual functions, I don't think we should be able to write. But let's see, class dog and animal, it's inheriting, right? This is inheritance basically. Returns. You're correct, you can't write that because animal is abstract class, so it can't be initiated. New returns a pointer and tries to return which is inherited. Fine. This is inheritance. Now what is happening in the main function? This make sound is method overriding, that is runtime polymorphism, and this is compile time polymorphism, or you can say this is method overloading. I hope you guys understood this part. Let's move on to next. Yeah, I'll just add these as well. Add this comments at the end. So encapsulation name is protected access to a method. Abstraction makes sound is pure virtual function. Inheritance dog and cat inherit from animal makes sound is overridden. Now the reason why we're writing delete at the end is to prevent memory leaks. Memory leaks basically means memory stays allocated even after my program can't access that particular memory anymore. C++ doesn't have garbage collection for dynamic allocation. With new, you must use delete. Okay, so also note guys, so whenever we write something like, I'll just add a comment, animal A, so there was this concept animal A equal to and something like this, where we need not write delete. So since we are writing with the help of new keyboard, we have to mandatory write delete, but in modern times, that is in recent times, if we declare our object using some other syntax, we need not explicitly write delete because it automatically handles. reference object and come on. Just ChatGPT. Yeah, so if we do not want to write, if we do not want to write delete keyword explicitly, we can declare like this. We can have something like dog d equal to, what is it, Tommy, and now what we can do is we can write animal star a and is equal to new notifications and d. Now similarly I can this basically what it does is pointer to stack object. I don't want to overcomplicate things, but yeah, if you do not want to write the delete keyword, we can simply do like this. Alrighty, this is done. Now let's go to our next question. What is a class? A class is a template in object-oriented programming that defines the structure and behavior of objects. It contains member variables to store state and member functions to define behavior. When we create a when we create an object from the class, the object gets its own copy of data and can use the methods defined in the class. A class is a template that defines structure and behavior of objects. It has member variables to store the state and member functions to define the behavior. When we create an object from a class, the object gets its own copy of the data and can use methods defined in the class. What is an object? It's an instance of a class. It represents a specific entity with its own state and behavior defined by the class it's created from. It represents a specific entity with its own state and behavior defined by the class it's created from. We cannot directly use a class member. We first have to create an object and then access its data members and methods through that object. For example, you can see this particular example how we are creating an object called student1. We are assigning it name Rahul, and if we print this, we will get output as student1 dot name get Rahul. Now, what is encapsulation? Encapsulation is the process of bundling variables data, bundling, you can say wrapping variables and the methods that operate on that data into a single unit, that is a class, while restricting direct access to some of the object's component. It serves two main purposes. First one is data hiding. It prevents unauthorized access to sensitive data, usually using access modifiers like private or protected. Second is data binding, keeping related data and behavior together so they can be managed as a whole. So Let us see an example of encapsulation specifically. What do you want me to do, guys? Do you want me to write the VS Code or explain it on Obsidian? Mm, you know what? Let's explain it on Obsidian right at the moment, and if there is some new concept, we'll just write that on VS Code. Since I have earlier explained all four pillars on VS Code, I believe it's not required to rewrite this particular part again. So consider we are handling uh, we are a manager of a bank and we have to handle all the bank accounts. So we have a class bank account and the balance in a particular amount should not be revealed to any kind of users. So we declare it as private. We have a double balance. Double is the data type. Now, whenever I initialize my bank account constructor, I'll initialize my balance to my initial balance. As you can see in the main function, I initialized my account with 1000 rupees. Now, when I try to deposit any kind of money, I'll increment my balance. If I try to withdraw, I'll decrement my balance. Now, here you can have edge cases like if I'm decrementing my balance should not my balance minus amount should not be less than or equal to zero, and then if I'm depositing, balance should not be greater than certain limit. Like if I'm depositing like 1 CR in one go, I think that is not allowed in today's time. So yeah, we can keep those checks and get balance will return as balance. So when we write like this, bank account data is hidden inside object. Now you cannot, oh, you can get the balance, but yeah, you cannot directly access this particular variable inside our main function. So when we are accessing arbitrary, we have to access by methods only. So if you can say account.balance, we are not allowed as data is hidden. We can only get we can only get the balance using account.getBalance. So this is the example of data hiding, and data balance is private, so it can't be accessed directly from outside. Makes sense. Data binding is the only way to interact with balance is through class methods like deposit, withdraw, binding the data and behavior together. I hope that is clear. Now we are going to what is abstraction, but before that my PC is lagging a bit. I'll just post it. What is abstraction and how is data abstraction accomplished? So abstraction is about showing only the necessary details to the user and hiding the internal complexity. Encapsulation is binding that particular data of binding all the methods and variables uh, accessing on the data into one single unit, that is a class. Abstraction is showing only necessary details to the user and hiding internal complexity. It focuses on what an object does rather than how it does. For example, we have this abstract class, pure virtual function. Now we are inheriting from this circle. Now we have a child class named circle which is inheriting from its parent class, that is shape. We override it, same. Yeah. Now when we declare a an object called shape, referring pointing to circle, how should I say this? Just see how should I say this? Yeah, so we can say it like a base class pointer shape star is pointed to a derived class object circle. Now when we do shape.draw, user just calls draw, doesn't know how it's drawn. This is basically an abstraction. We don't know how it's implemented internally, but we know what it does. Explanation is shape is an abstract class because it has pure virtual functions. The user only calls draw without knowing the steps of how to draw the circle. The internal logic like coordinates algorithm is hidden in the circle class. We can also achieve data abstraction using access modifiers, internal calculation hidden, necessary info exposed. This way the user cannot directly change the balance but only interact. Next is what is abstract class. An abstract class is a class that can be instantiated on its own and may contain one or more abstract methods. That it is can't, that cannot be instantiated on its own and may contain one or more abstract class. Methods that are declared but not implemented. Its main purpose is to provide a common base for derived class. Its main purpose is to provide a common base for derived class, ensuring they implement specific functionality. What is an interface? Interface is always in Java, by the way. So interface is essentially a contract that defines a set of method signatures without providing their implementation. Just a sec, guys. Yeah, so an interface is essentially a contract. Mm, this is clear, but I feel I can keep it still clear. Excuse me. Without providing their implementation. It can't hold state and you can't create objects from it directly. Any class implementing an interface must provide concrete implementation for all its declared methods. And this is useful for achieving abstraction and ensuring multiple classes follow the same structure, which is key for polymorphism. How is an abstract class different from an interface? An abstract class can have both abstract methods without implementation and concrete methods with implementation. It can also have fields, constructors, and access modifiers. When a class inherits from an abstract class, it is not mandatory to implement all abstract methods unless they are actually used. For example, abstract method. Since we are having pure virtual function, we should implement this by any chance. So make sound is always implemented, whereas pre is not mandatory to be implemented in child classes. Just make sure if that point is correct. So you can see the example, we are overriding this particular function and we are calling it. The interface is purely a contract, it contains only method declarations and default and static methods in some languages without implementation. When a class implements an interface, it must provide implementation for all of its methods. Also, a class can implement multiple interfaces using the keyword implements, but can inherit from only one abstract class. For example, we have interface vehicle, class car implements vehicle, class bike implements vehicle. You have to implement both the methods. Now, in the main, PSVM, we can simply make a vehicle V object we can we can have, what is it? What did I write earlier? Hmm. A base class pointer is pointing to a derived class object. A base class pointer vehicle is pointing to derived class object, that is car. Interface, you can, in C++ interfaces, when we have a class with all pure virtual methods. So this is an interface, implementation, and note in C++, a class can implement multiple abstract classes, that is multiple interfaces. Since C++ supports multiple inheritance, the derived class must provide concrete definitions for all the pure virtual functions it inherits. Does Java support multiple inheritance? I don't know. Java cannot only inherit from one class. Okay, I see. Another note. Java does not support multiple inheritance with classes. That is, we cannot inherit two classes at the same time to avoid ambiguity and diamond problem. However, it does support multiple inheritance through interfaces, meaning a class can implement multiple interfaces and provide the definition. What is the difference between structure and a class? Main difference is members are public, in class they are private. And second difference is we use the struct keyword to define a structure, and second is class to define a class. Alright, so let's take a bit break over here. We'll return around 10, 15, 10, 20. Right, and we'll continue from question number 18. How many are we having? 49, I believe. 48. Don't worry, it will be done before like 12 o'clock, obviously. In the meantime, I'll just please stop this and yeah.
evolution and potential. We exist to help individuals remember who they are, what they love, what they fight for, so they can bring into reality their unique expression of their
Alcor is nice. What is it?
lived experience.
Alcor.
Believe that
Oh boy.